lava over.
Just pour lots of lava.
If in doubt, pour lava.
If in doubt, pour lava. I like it. I like it. That's our new manifesto. If in doubt, pour lava.
Yeah. It's easy.
Yeah, you just get a bucket of lava.
And it melts the bucket. What? Oh shit.
I was going to say a diamond bucket.
Yeah.
Hello ladies, gentlemen and humanoids of all ages, and welcome back to another stream with my special co-host today, Ree.
Hello.
You're doing a PhD in it's not specifically van dwelling, is it?
Well, I'm doing a PhD in sociology, and I'm looking at van dwelling. I'm looking at it from quite a few different angles, as an alternative to housing, as a social movement, and just generally like looking at nomadism and the place of the nomad in society today.
Yeah. And are you also looking at the effects it has on people who live in houses and people who live in vans as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really interested in the way that the public respond to van dwelling.
Yeah. That's cool. What sort of stuff have you found so far then through your research? Like who have you talked to start with?
Okay, so I've been actually doing my, still in the process of doing my Masters in order to start my PhD in November, and I've been doing a case study on the Yard Arts Collective.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I've been doing is following their efforts to try and secure a new site in Shirehampton, if you're aware of it. Yes, wonderful.
I hope I am, because I do live on Yard Arts, so it does
that's
help.
That's what
it does help.
That's what I thought, yes. So I've been talking to people on site, but I've mainly been focusing on like the public response, as you say. So this has involved collecting data from the internet, as the internet is now a hub of discourse, which is really interesting.
It's true. Like Facebook is massive. Like you can find hundreds of thousands of people being van dwellers around the world, sort of.
Exactly, yeah. So I've collected quite a lot of information from there. I also attended a public meeting, where the locals of Shirehampton were asking Yard Arts about their plans, and that was quite interesting. It was hosted by the local MP, so I've got some data from there, and also just from my own experiences van dwelling as well, with Yard Arts. So I'm an ethnographer, so lived experience is a method.
Of course, of course. Because I mean, if you don't live it, you can only view it from the outside without any depth.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't know what's going on inside, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And like the deeper you get into it, the more you learn.
Well, how have you found? How have you found living in vans then?
Well, I've actually really enjoyed it so far. Like, I've actually never lived in a van myself before, but I've spent a lot of time with people who have since I was about 14, I think. So yes, I've always been very familiar with the new traveller, as we used to call it, lifestyle, which in itself I find quite interesting that we're not calling people in vans new travellers anymore. We're calling them van dwellers, and that in itself is quite interesting. I think that changing of categories. Would you have any comment to make on that? Actually, I'd love to ask you about that.
Well, it's interesting because I think people are trying to distance themselves from being branded as something, because I know there's still stigma behind people being new age travellers, people being travellers in general, sort of thing. Cause it has a negative connotation on people. So if you live on the street, you live like in Bristol, like people living on the streets, they're called travellers and stuff. There's a certain degradation and just how people feel about people who are called travellers, sort of thing. Because it's that stigma behind people being travellers to start with, sort of thing.
Yes, it's like a tactical disassociation almost. It's quite interesting how people actively use language that way. I think the way that people can choose the way they use certain words. Like for example, another one is how we call it a yard, not a site. Like because of again negative connotations associated with the word site. I find that really interesting as well.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting sort of thing. It's interesting how if you change it, people's perception of it changes, sort of thing as well. Whereas if you follow along. But I think it's also because people. I think some people don't call themselves it because they just forget that they are it. It's just their home. It's a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people, but I feel like a few people kind of park up and sit places. But because a lot of people have jobs nowadays and live in caravans, it's not just people travelling around for work. It's actually people who live in cities who can't afford to live anymore in cities because it's so expensive. So expensive.
Yeah, would you say in a sense then it's almost become less nomadic in a way? It's become more kind of like. Well, obviously, there's always the possibility of movement. It depends how you define nomadism.
Of course,
actually.
it is.
So, which is another thing that I find very interesting.
Because some nomads settle down and stay there for years, and one day just go, yeah, I'm done with the place, time to go on.
Exactly.
And they've got the ability to.
Yeah, and instantly as well. Yeah, it's the movability of the dwellings.
Yeah, the flexibility.
Isn't it? Yeah, flexibility or fluidity or whichever word you prefer.
Just all the words that make sense.
Yes.
But no, it's interesting living in a caravan and living on the side that you have to sort of not be careful, but you have to be aware of other people around you, especially like when we were living on the St. Paul's site, because we were pretty much in the city centre at the point. Like we were at least half a mile away from the city centre. So there's a lot more people there who might have stigmatism against travellers, sort of thing, who could aim for where you're living, sort of thing. Whereas up here where we're in Kingswood now, we're so far removed from it. Like we've only ever had a few issues with the neighbours, and they're all people who are just grumpy that we're all living here, basically.
Ah, that's interesting. So, do you feel that there's more discrimination in the city centre, or do you think people act on it more? Like, are you talking about hate crime?
I think there's more people. There's more people, so there's more chance risking that it's going to be hate crime. Because that's the thing. So you've got more people in one place. If a few people start speaking out, it's like the sheep effect. Like people just start following the leader until you just get a massive mob and they just burn the house down for no apparent reason.
Ah, interesting. Ah, so you say you had troubles when you first moved out here. When was it that you first moved out here?
We moved out here a year ago now. Would have been.
I thought it was about that. Yeah.
It's about a year and a bit ago actually. It's not a full year ago. Yeah, no, we just had issues with the neighbours. So because we got a fence line with the road up there, and we got the houses which look over, and they just didn't know what was they got told what was going on, but they weren't happy with what was going on because we were called travellers. They assumed that we were a specific type of travellers that would come in, ruin the site, make lots of noise, and then just bugger off again in like 3 or 4 months, sort of thing. Whereas now year on, sort of thing, they're more so keeping themselves rather than causing a fuss, because they know that we're not causing issues, basically.
So, do you feel there was a period where you've had to prove yourself almost? Yeah,
there was a period where we had to be cautious of not making too much noise, of not being too boisterous, and not playing music late into night. Like we still don't play music late into night because this is our home. Like we just want to enjoy ourselves. But I think we can relax now because we sort of come over that temporary period where people can kick up a fuss or are more likely to kick up a fuss. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you reckon you could tell me a bit more about actually the difference between van dwelling in the city and van dwelling out here? Because I can imagine there are some quite big differences.
Yeah. No, there's some massive differences. So, first off is the commute. So if you want a job, it's now 3-4 mile cycle, bus ride, car drive into the town centre, sort of thing. Which again, because we live up here, like the road down to the city centre gets horribly chock-a-block during the daytime, sort of thing. So it's one of the downsides living further out. Is it's nicer and quieter, because my God, it's so quiet up here now compared to the city centre, because we were right on the line with the motorway. So 3 o'clock in the morning, there's massive lorries rolling past us, or the street racers driving past, sort of thing. You get woken up all the time. God, my sleep was terrible. It was my sleep was so bad. Like I'd wake up like 4 o'clock. Huh? What's that? It's just not sleep. Go back to sleep. Just hide under the covers as much as you can, sort of thing. Yeah.
So it's interesting, isn't it? So you're kind of sacrificing one thing, always
exactly.
Sacrificing one thing and gaining another.
There's always a compromise, sort of thing. Well, it's because I grew up in the countryside, so I'm used to travelling long distances to get places, sort of thing. But you were saying earlier about people who lived in the city, grew up in the city, are used to the noise, are used to the lights, and used to everything, sort of thing.
Yeah, I always remember when I spend time with my very good friend Maisie, who will maybe watch this, I don't know.
You can share it to her, there you go.
Yes, lovely. Well, she's very much a city dweller and always has been, and she actually finds she can't sleep without noise. She thinks the quiet's weird. So whereas we're the complete polar opposite.
Yeah,
like I can't.
Because you grew up in the countryside.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm used to quiet, and then she's so used to the noise. So for her, being out of the city is actually harder to sleep than. So it's quite interesting how like the sound that we're used to, like how our experience of sound differs, depending on the environment we're so used to. Yeah.
I wonder that because I've not done much travelling in the caravan because I've been pretty static. Because I've been living in caravans and buses for the last 2 years. I first got into mine. I was sleeping on a couple of semi-fold down chairs in my friend's bus for about half a year or so. That's how I first got in, because of Paris. I was living in Paris's bus.
Oh, Paris. Okay,
yeah. And I was living that till from like August sort of time, because I was at Glastonbury before that. I did about 6 months stint living on those chairs, and then I got my own caravan sort of thing.
Oh.
But yeah, like, and I guess one of the things that drove me to is I couldn't afford to live anywhere else because it was so expensive. Because like I was in Bristol 6 years ago now, and rent was affordable, and now it's not. It's crazy how much in 6 years it's become unobtainable to sort of rent a room for a fair price.
Yeah, it's really true, isn't it? Do you think the van dwelling is being used increasingly as a housing solution now?
Of course, yeah. Like one of the best examples I saw was that there's a van about 3/4 of a mile from us, near the school, by the cycle path. So you got the park and the cycle path.
Oh yes.
Yeah. There's a van up there, and it had a lovely note that's saying like, "Hello, I'm living here. I'm a teacher," and he was a music teacher. And he basically said, I can't afford rent, so I bought this vehicle. I'm living in this vehicle. I go off to work every day. I'll keep. And he keeps where he lives clean and tidy, sort of thing. Like, it's showing you that people who work as a teacher can't afford to live in a house anymore. And it's getting to the point. Yeah, it's just crazy how many people are living in vans nowadays, in caravans.
That's one of the things that attracted me to it as a PhD thesis.
Yeah.
Because. Yeah, it's something that I grew up around. Some of my closest friends were, like I told you earlier, are new travellers, and I saw the amount of discrimination they experienced as a result of that as well. So for me, I found it very interesting how, in such a short amount of time, it went from being something very out of the ordinary, to being something that was becoming almost normalised. Do you think that it has?
I think it's grown. I think the younger generation, like 18, 25, 30-year-olds. More so now, sort of seeing it as a viable option to live rather than just being something people do and the outliers do. It's now sort of like, I could live in a caravan sort of thing, get more used to it sort of thing. Like, because I think it's weird because I think people in our generation are sort of getting bored of the oversaturation of getting stuff. And now getting to the point of just wanting to get rid of stuff and live a simpler life.
Yeah, I think I was reading something the other day saying, unfortunately I can't remember where I read it, but how people are now valuing experience over material possessions.
Of course.
Do you think that's tied to it as well?
I think it's really true because because in the Western world we have the ability to enjoy experiences rather than have material stuff now. Like we seem to have got to a point where, like, if I don't know, it's a weird one, but I think people understand a lot more that it's not just you work for 40 years, you get the house, you get the family, and you retire and you die anymore. It's you do a lot of different stuff and you try different stuff, and like, because we're all going to end up dead anyway, no matter if you've got money or not, you're always going to go one way at the end.
I think it's almost like a form of capital, almost like it's like a bank of experience that kind of can value your work, maybe measure your worth by. Like, if you look at social media now, a lot of it is flaunting your experiences as. I'm not saying we're all doing that like as van dwellers, but just kind of drifting off into broader discussions about experience and also just travelling in general. Like, that's quite interesting how it's become so normal for everyone to move around so much. And a lot of things I've read has said that a lot of the discrimination aimed at travelling communities was due to the tension of them moving around while everyone else was living very fixed, settled lifestyles. But now everyone's living, well, not everyone, I guess, but everyone who can afford to is moving around much more.
But I think it also stems from stigmatism, like from the travelling community side, where they rock up to base, they leave lots of rubbish around the place, and then they just scarper at the end of it, sort of thing. Because it's something I've experienced once, at least, when I was living back in Ireland, where we had where a traveller set up along our road, sort of thing, and they did leave a lot of trash on the road, sort of thing. Like, at the time I didn't care they did or didn't, sort of thing, because they were right next to a dump site anyway, which was unused. But I think it's something that stemmed from somewhere. I think also to do with people being able to be free, but I think it's also people seeing it as if you don't care about the community, it can backlash to be like, other people are moving around and leaving rubbish, sort of thing. Well, we have to pick up after them, sort of thing. But nowadays, I think it's a change. Like, I think people take a lot of respect and care for their actions living in caravans now to stop that issue creeping up at all.
Do you think a lot of that as well is down to
when we're doing stuff, like when we're just eating food, like all the plastic wrap we get, all the cardboard, all the items we pick up, sort of thing. But, if there's nowhere to put it, what do you do with it? Like, if there's no facilities, because that's another issue. Living in vans, it's hard to get facilities like showers, toilets, washing machines, waste disposal, that sort of stuff. It's really tough for if you live in a caravan. If you don't live in a legal site, because like here we're quite lucky because we've got bins that get taken out. It's all set up because here we pay rent, which is quite nice because we've got more stability than other people do.
Definitely, yeah. So with the facilities comes more stability. Yeah, and I guess as well, like you're saying, you think a lot of the negative perceptions stem from like people's inability to have things like waste collection. I've actually read a lot of stuff that would support that as well. So I think actually that can perpetuate like negative stereotypes. So it's a bit of a treat into their own. So I think a lot of that is from
it takes a lot longer to
exactly. That actually takes us quite nicely onto Shirehampton and how workshops and performances are potentially going to be used as a way of actually creating that platform between the community and van dwelling communities. And do you have much to say about that actually?
I think it's a really cool idea. Like the Shirehampton idea is creating a space where people can do workshops, where they can rent rooms to do workshops, not even workshops, but like where they can do creative activities, and they're taking a space which is unused, because a lot of spaces are unused in cities, like the new thing. And like rehabilitating that site with people living on there, people doing stuff, you're regenerating a city in a different way. Like it's not so much about profit. It's about letting people experience stuff and doing different stuff rather than. And that's what the Shirehampton site I feel would do, because it would open a pathway for people to try different experiences which they wouldn't get to try in Shirehampton, like trying circus out because there's not much circus there. It's more in the city centre. Trying, going to see shows, doing workshops, learning about different stuff, and that's a really interesting proposal.
Because that's the kind of thing that's being cut, unfortunately, isn't it? Like in the era we're in, where there's not much money to go around for public services.
All of the arts have been cut down as much as possible, sort of thing. So there's not much creativity done and pushing. It's like I've always seen it as Bristol being the creative hub in England, sort of thing, on the west coast, and then now it's like all these people with money are coming in to push us all out and push out all the people that don't make a lot of money, but they bring the soul to the city, sort of thing. I think van dwellers do that as well. Like cultural capital. Exactly. So people come to the city and love it because it's so lively. There's buskers on the streets all day. There's people doing stuff all the time. But the issue is that all the people love it because of that, and they come here and they push out people who are doing that further out to move to different cities, and it just becomes another city where people go to work and there's not much going on in the streets anymore.
So it's almost like an art-led gentrification process.
That
actually, like, ironically, impacts the people that have brought it about more.
Exactly.
I've had a few people saying this.
Because it's just like, this city is really cool. It's really banging. I've got enough money to live here and rent here, sort of thing. And the landlord's going, I can charge them more rent. You can't afford the rent. You have to go further out, like to Fish Ponds, to Kingswood, and you have to go out to Yate, Cavan Dursley, Stroud, Gloucestershire. You have to keep pushing over to Wales, and then there's no one left in the city who can afford to busk and who can afford to go out, sort of thing. But I think that's something that Shirehampton would help with, because the rent's affordable. So you can live in a van which is your own space, because that's something I love, is coming in and just go, my home. Close the curtains, do what I want, cook some food, watch something, leave a mess anywhere I want, sort of thing. And it's my responsibility. It's not someone else's who comes in from a long day at work and goes, what's all this mess in here? God damn it!
It's really true, actually. I've noticed that as well. If the washing up's not done, it's only me to blame.
Exactly. You walk in going, it's a big pile of washing up there. I'll do it tomorrow. It's fine. I don't feel like doing it today. Nobody's there to bother you anymore, sort of thing, which is really nice. Whereas if you live in a house, there's always someone going, God, guys, come on, what's all this mess? Come on, picking up after you and complaining, sort of thing.
So it's like you don't have to, I guess, like negotiate as much, which can be difficult, especially like as rent prices go up. I guess people are sharing houses by more and more people. I've noticed that people have. I don't know if you'd agree.
I have as well. Like couples always try and get a room because then the rent split in half, which is say 350, 400. It's then 200 for each of them, sort of thing. So it's more affordable. But then you've got like 4, 5, 6 extra people living in a big house than you would normally with one person to one room, sort of thing. So there's more likelihood of conflicts. Whereas you live in a caravan, hey, how's it going, guys? How's it going? Awesome. Gonna head in. I'll see you guys later. And just go in, just do your own thing, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like you've always got the option to have
be
people.
sociable.
So you always feel like you never feel alone, but then you also can feel alone if you want. If you want to, it's like not. It's not forced on you.
You can go out and be sociable. You can knock on someone's door. Hey, do you want some dinner? Do you want some food? Do you want to chat? and you just chat for a while, sort of thing. And then, or you can come in, you're not feeling good today, just go into your home and just close off. But you know you're safe because on this site we've got like 25 people living here, so there's always going to be someone who's around. So you can feel safe in the community because it's a community. It's not just a set of 6 buildings. It's actually people who talk to each other and hang out with each other and spend time with each other, sort of thing, which is really, really cool. And I think that's something van dwelling does. It makes you bring a community together of people who live in vans as well.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I guess also a lot of people feel nowadays that we're kind of losing. There's a real sense that people are losing community values, and so that's maybe just what we need. You know,
I think it is. Yeah. Just abolish all the houses, just build rows and rows of vans everywhere, hundreds of miles of vans, and then everyone can just leave and then come back whenever they want, sort of thing.
Can you imagine? That would be quite a project, wouldn't
it? well, can you imagine just like 1 mile by 1 mile square of like different vans, of like, you know, big vans, little vans, caravans, big caravans. Just like anyone, like with paths, being able to get out and drive away, sort of thing. Go away when you want to and come back again, sort of thing. It's so good.
Yeah, I guess. What would you do to the houses though?
Just everyone lives in a caravan. The houses that were going to be built, you've got caravans, and you've got all this lovely grass that's underneath. You've got lovely, you know, like it's better in some ways because instead of building these big square blocks of concrete and having to dig down to concrete, you've got caravans, you've got land underneath, and you're not impacting the land so much. So like if everyone who lives there wants to go away one day, it becomes fields, and not just these ruined houses which take like hundreds of years to collapse and be dug away and to put back land.
Yeah, they're more fluid in that respect, aren't they?
Yeah. It's more respectful to the land because you can just lift off, grow off, and the grass that was underneath you grows back one day.
And I've also noticed you can change the use of your van quite quickly as well, can't you?
Yeah.
Like in a few weeks, I'm actually going to be going with a couple of other van dwellers actually, and we're going to do a run to Calais. So the van's going to be used to take one of the vans as a storage device, but then also as a place to accommodate us and sleep when we're there. Because it's such a flexible thing that you can change the use of so easily.
Yeah, it works.
And you can just rearrange it I think actually you were saying this the other day, weren't you? About DIY being actually so much more plausible
and realistic rather than being afraid of I'm going to drill a hole into this. It's like it's just a caravan,